no, you sucked at life, or yeah, you did pretty good. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, my name is Emma. I'm going to be wrapping up the nonfiction books that I have read recently. It's been a few months since I've done like a wrap up, and so I've just been kind of splitting it into parts because if I did it all in one video, it'd be kind of insane. And I encourage you that if you're not usually a nonfiction reader, some of these are a little bit easier to digest. I don't usually go for like super hardcore nonfiction because I cannot focus. I encourage you to check some of these out. Please always check the content warnings beforehand though. Let's start off with the ones that I do not currently have with me so that I don't forget them. First off is Milleneagram. I read this at some point. I have a vlog. I remember vlogging when I read it. This is about the Enneagram, but it's talking about it in more like millennial-esque terms because it's an old system. I read probably like 2/3 to 3/4 of it. I didn't read all of it because it was like definitions of each number and I was kind of like, okay. I didn't need to read all of it, I guess, to understand. I don't remember if I rated it or not because it was kind of just like informational. It was a fun read and it was well written and I was engaged, so yeah. Next is History of the World in 6 Glasses. It was probably the most like factually informative one that I read, but it was so fun. I listened to it, and also another thing that helps me with nonfiction is listening to it a lot of the time because I can just focus better on it instead of just trying to sit down and like learn things. It doesn't always work for me. So this one talks about the history of the world through 6 different beverages. I think we talk about beer, wine, coffee, tea, Coca-Cola, and spirits. Not necessarily in that order. It was really fun. It was really informative. Like certain traditions that we still keep up today, there was a reason, and it was just really fun to read. And I rated it 4 stars. Let's just start in the order that I have them stacked here. First off is Slow Days, Fast Company by Babitz. This was fun, and it was interesting. I liked hearing her talk, or like reading her talk. It was really interesting. It was really like just laying it out for you, but there was also a lot of like descriptions, and you just really understood what was happening, I feel like. This follows Babitz, and she's kind of like writing letters to some unnamed person, but she's also detailing like what happened in her life at that point, and it's just fun. It's, I don't know, I like hearing about people's lives. It's just really entertaining to me. A lot of her thoughts are just like, hell yeah, man. But apparently she's like super conservative now. Like in her old age, she just went whoosh and switch because she's not like that at all in this one. I don't know if there was like an inciting incident like as to why she changed her views, but all I know is that she did. So yeah, but I mean that's not reflected in her books like at all. As far as like how it was written and enjoyment level based off of that, it's like in the 4-star range. It was a really fun read, but I'm not rating her like experiences because that's just weird. Like, no, you sucked at life, or yeah, you did pretty good. Next up is Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. I listened to this recently while I was rearranging my room, and I liked it a lot, and so I decided to get the hard copy of it. This is by Emmanuel Acho, which from the book, I understand that he's like an NFL player. I do not pay attention to sports very much, so let's see. Yes, he's an NFL player, and he's played for a couple different teams. From what I gather from the book, he has a video series of the same title. Each chapter starts with a thing, like a question that someone has, and then it moves on to a quote that kind of addresses that question, and a little bit of discussion on that quote. And then you go into the Let's Get Uncomfortable section, which is where he sort of talks about his thoughts on it. It was just really well written, and it was engaging, and it was really accessible and easy to understand, and it was just something that I really needed, I think. He acknowledges some of his differences as far as like his specific ethnic background and how that kind of differentiates his experience to some other Black people. Oh, this is a picture of him. I like his tie. Look at his tie. That's fun and funky. I like it. Honestly, it was a really good book, and I bought it so that I could look back on it, and I do recommend the audiobook for it. It was really interesting. I just got the hard copy because I wanted to be able to look back into it. but if I do reread it, I'll probably read it along with the audiobook. Next up is Modern Love, edited by Daniel Jones. Yeah, this has a bunch of like short stories, sort of, but they're nonfiction. They were submitted to the New York Times under the column name, which I think was called like Modern Love, and they're good. They're so good. There was only a couple in here that I think I was kind of like, just like not entirely interested in, but like they're so good. Some of them are super funny. A couple of them freaking sad. God, one of them just like took me by surprise, and I was like, oh my God, you had to do that to me, didn't you? But overall, it was super interesting, and I had a lot of fun with it. I think I gave it around 4 stars. I enjoyed most of the stories, and it was fun. And yes, these are true stories, and so like giving it a rating, blah, 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 but mostly of just like how well they were written. A lot of the people who submitted stories were like writers or were in some part of the like writing industry, book industry, I don't know. So they were all really well written, and the collection that he chose to put together, Daniel Jones, I think was also well thought out. So yeah. Next up is Letters to a Young Poet by Rainer Maria Rilke. Okay, there are a lot of R's in that, and I can never fully say it the way I want to. Originally, I listened to this on audiobook through my library, and then I liked it a lot, and I decided I want to get a copy of it so that I can look into it more. These are letters that he wrote to a young poet, just kind of talking about different things. I don't know, it's really good, and I don't entirely know how to explain it, but they're letters, but they're poetic themselves, and they're just well written and interesting, and I had a lot of fun with it, and I would like to reread it soon. Next up is Saigon by Phuc Tran, and this is so good. This was kind of like the only book that I would talk about for a while. I was like, oh, so I read this book. And it's so interesting, and the title is like a play on words with Saigon, which is cool, and he's Vietnamese, and he moved to the US when he was pretty young. I don't remember exactly what age he was, but it's really good because each chapter is divided by like a certain classic, I guess. He's really interested in literature, and he kind of weaves that story into his chapter, and it's really interesting, and it's like a literary nerd's dream. It's just so fun, and he also talks a lot about art and how those are like his 2 great passions, and it's fantastic because in life he like fulfilled or is doing his 2 favorite passions. He owns a tattoo parlor, and he also teaches Latin to some high schoolers. He teaches a high school class. But I just highly recommend it. It's really well written, and I give it 5 stars because yes, it's about his life, but the way that he organized it and the way that he wrote it was just really good and really well written, and I really wanted to acknowledge that, I guess. So those are the nonfiction books that I have read recently. Somewhat recently. If you haven't seen my fantasy video or the contemporary one, please check those out, and subscribe if you want to see more content from me, and like the video if you enjoyed it, please. No pressure. I hope you guys have an amazing time, and I will see you later. Bye.